Common Council meeting on Tuesday night, August 20th, 2024. All alderpersons are present. Please join with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everyone. In the consent agenda, we have two agenda items. Is there someone willing to make a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or concerns on the consent? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Under Mayor's business, we have two things tonight. The first is just a reminder that on August 22nd, we have a Senior Citizens Day down at Veterans Park from 1 to 3 o'clock for a concert in the park. Please join us for that. And then the second thing tonight is a proclamation honoring the Hales Trail Community Garden and dedicating an Appreciation Day on August 20th. So do we have friends from the garden here tonight? All right. Would you all mind coming up over here and then we can celebrate you if you don't mind? Just right over here in front of our city clerk, Susan. We're assuming the bushels of zucchini and tomatoes are outside. Well, first I want to thank Alderwoman Postel for bringing this tonight to just thank you all for what you did. That was an area of Port Washington that when I was a kid was a very underutilized baseball diamond. And when I worked for Park and Rec and I used to cut the grass down there, my boss, Joe Weiss, lived up the hill where your fire hydrant is, where you run the water. And it still is, and he still lives there. And I used to drive him crazy because I would cut that grass in wild patterns. And he would come home and he would see it would be a big circle. One day I used to I don't know, just drive him crazy. And years later, of course, when the Hales Trail Community Garden was put in place and we utilized that property and that land so differently, it was fantastic. And being a resident, I live a block away from there, so I usually run past it every morning or walk past it in the evenings. And I always see, especially this time of the year, everybody who has their plots in there and working their gardens and just all the beautiful things that are in there. Once in a while, you get to see somebody who accidentally let a rabbit in, running around chasing a rabbit to try to get it out. So I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but I've watched that twice. So one, on behalf of the city, we really appreciate everything that you guys do to make sure that it's accessible to all the different people who use the plots. But two, just grateful that you've found a spot in Port Washington and utilized it so that people have a bountiful harvest every fall, growing their flowers, their vegetables, and their different pieces. So on behalf of the city of Port Washington, we would like to give a proclamation and create an appreciation day this year for those who volunteer and those who work in those gardens. And whereas Hales Trails Community Garden, which began as a vision of Derek Stroll in 2013, is located at 245 Hales Trail within the city of Port Washington, its success thrives annually, and this year is supported by the professional and dedicated leadership of Scott, Anita, and Jerry. And whereas the creativity and pride of all the garden's volunteers who work with and in spite of Mother Nature to create and retain the gardens in eye-catching and beautiful condition, and whereas because of the hard physical labor of the volunteers that support the 70 garden plots, the shared grapes, rhubarb, apples, and herb gardens, the shed, and the garden equipment with the fenced-in area, as well as the fence itself, and whereas with the dedication of the volunteers who increased their total volunteer hours from 145 in 2022 to nearly 255 hours in 2023. And whereas by the dedication and common interest of multiple generations year over year to ensure the garden's annual success, whereas our community recognizes and appreciates the labor, compassion, dedication, and care of all of the Hales Trails Community Garden volunteers. Now, therefore, be it resolved that August 20th, 2024 be Hales Trail Community Garden Appreciation Day. And be it further resolved that I, Theodore Knightsky, the mayor of the city of Port Washington, do hereby join with the members of the Common Council in encouraging all members of our community to join in personally expressing appreciation and gratitude to the volunteers of the Hales Trail Community Garden. Thank you all for what you do. I'll come down there with this for you. With that, then I'm going to move into the officer and staff reports. And there's a couple of things I wanted to point out and ask from the staff reports. First of all, again, as always, thank you for the comprehensive pieces in here. Rob, under the breakwater improvements, I really, really appreciate this. And I'm wondering if you could communicate out, if we could use our Facebook to just show those specific points at which the breakwater repairs are going to be and where the additional rock will be put and why. That's really, I think that's fantastic that we're doing that. And for years, you know, we'll have one nor'easter in the middle of winter and it'll rip that whole area up. So it's nice to know that you've worked proactively to get that done. And I think the people who utilize the light pier every day, that'll be really good to communicate out. So I appreciate that one. The other request that I actually got this morning, which ironically is in here, is for Dan Fisher, but if the team could request that. With all of the improvements taking place down at Water Utility, one of the pieces is the way that the property is fenced in. It's prohibitive for people who may have special needs or be handicapped to be able to access from that south side, the way the fence is. And I know this would be a lot of work, but if on weekends, that could be changed so that the sidewalk that's along the lake could potentially be accessed. As well as the last time we did construction over there with the Anze building, we put in a chip path. So that's changed a traffic pattern along that road and made it a little bit dangerous. People are walking on Lake Street instead of the sidewalk, slowing down traffic and creating an issue. And then again, if you have a handicap issue or a level issue, you can't get from Lake Street over to the sidewalk. So you can see a path being created with grass. Just a thought or consideration that came from a community member. So I appreciated that one. And then, of course, John Crane, who is always phenomenal with his photography in here, but just a gratitude to the rec staff, the park staff, for repairing the stairs that lead from the bluff down to the beach. That was a much-needed piece, and it was very appreciative that they made those sections safe very, very quickly. Any other thoughts from council before we move on? All right, just a lot of gratitude on my behalf from that. All right, so with that, that moves us into public comments and appearances. Your comments are welcome. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you need more time, please contact the city administrator and/or ask myself to have the agenda potentially placed on the Common Council agenda. Are there any public comments and appearances? Any public comments or appearances? Any public comment? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so the answer is if there's anything on the agenda that you want to make a comment on, now is the only time that you'd be able to do that, unless there's a public hearing about a specific agenda item, and then there would be the opportunity to present during that time. So I'm assuming now is when you'd like to speak. All right, so if you could please step to the podium, state your name, address, and then you need to just press the little on button there so it goes red. And then you have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Karina Gross. I live at 553 North Harrison Street, directly behind the property that's up for discussion tonight. Used to be the Sundance Bar. I just want to say I have concerns because our property, like I said, right behind it, our neighborhood has been very quiet and safe. Great place to raise families, kids around all the time going up to the park. When we want to go downtown for entertainment, we can. When we don't, we can come back to our quiet neighborhood. All the residents or all the properties in that 500 block are private residences or family homes, except for the Heritage Printing, which is self-contained, and the property we're discussing tonight. I was hoping that, to me, common sense would be to make that into condos and another home like they did to the property south. If not, if there could have been a quiet 9 to 5 kind of a business so it wouldn't impose into the rest of the neighborhood. But we're here having the discussion about another bar where it's going to be open till 9, 2 in the morning, bar time, whatever that is now. It's going to be bringing people in and traffic in. I'm concerned about the fact that they don't want to just keep it in the bar itself on the public side, Main Street, that they want to have cabaret license, which I'm assuming means that they're going to have outdoor entertainment. They want to have patio dining, and they want to change the back part of the property on Harrison Street side not to be residential anymore, but to be, I'm assuming, business, so they can extend the bar and the patio seating, is my guess. I'm assuming that. Our neighborhood, like I said, has been very peaceful and quiet, and a bar with late hours and outdoor noise. I'm concerned about the impact and how it's going to change the dynamics of our neighborhood. And I just want to go on record that I was hoping that if we do have to have a bar here, if we could at least try to keep it contained. All the other bars and restaurants that are in Port Washington either are up against streets or other public businesses. This one is going to be completely surrounded by homes. And it doesn't seem to be the right fit to my idea for what our neighborhood is right now. And I hope that you take that into consideration because I'm concerned about what it's going to do to our property values, besides how it's going to affect us with noise, some of the issues we had with some of the patrons walking through our yards, doing other disgusting things in the yards, being sick or urinating in public. I don't want to look forward to impossible bar fights when I have to call the cops because people are getting beat up, or, as Rob can attest, drunks driving through our properties where our children had just been playing. So we've had some negative issues, and that is why I have my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments and your concerns. Any other public comments? Any other public comments?
My name is Robert Shires. I live next to the Grosses at 547 North Harrison Street. When we purchased the property about 14 years ago, there was a bar there, the Sundance, and we knew that coming in. There were some incidents from time to time, as you would expect with a bar, and I don't have a problem with there being a bar there again, per se, but I think it would be a shame to have that bar extend then onto Harrison Street. I think it's fine where it is, if you keep the bar business within the bar and then on the property adjacent to the south, but I don't think it should come to the west with all the families that go up and down to and from the park. It would also be within eyeshot and earshot of the park. I realize that the bars are often busier after hours, but on the weekends they can have business during the day. So I would like to see that 551 or the Harrison Street portion stay as residential versus turning commercial. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments or appearances? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move into agenda item area number 7, standing committees from General Government and Finance Committee. This is a conversation about a consideration and possible action on approval of a Class B liquor license and a B beer license and an annual cabaret license for Lucky Devils LLC. The issue is, should the Common Council approve the original or Class B liquor license and Class B beer license and annual cabaret license with Kimberly Nobel as agent for Lucky Devils LLC. The staff recommends that the staff recommendation is that the clerk has reviewed and approved the application and required supporting documents. All required fees have been paid, and the background record check was completed and approved by Chief Hingus. This will be an assigned, quote, alcohol license. City clerk is requesting approval of the license as presented. Susan, as I turn it over, could you please explain to the community the difference between an original B, a Class B, and a cabaret license, so we all have a clear understanding of those definitions?
Absolutely.
All right,
Thank you.
Susan.
There are actually 2 different licenses occurring here that are up for consideration. One is a Class B liquor and Class B beer. It's also called a combination license, which most bars hold. This is a quota license for the city that we would be issuing. Their proposed agent is Kimberly Noble. She will be responsible on site for all operations related to the sale, consumption, serving, and purchasing of product. The second piece is a cabaret license, which they have also filed for at the same time. The agent is also Kimberly Noble. That would allow them to be able to provide musical entertainment inside, whether it be a jukebox, karaoke, something like that. The conditions of that with any outside music will also be addressed tonight within the conditional use grant that you will be hearing later. All of the documentations that they are required to present, and they have met with me numerous times along with the police chief and gone into these in detail. They have provided everything necessary. All fees are paid, background checks came back fully approved. I would ask that if you consider approval tonight of these two licenses, it may be made subject to the approval of the conditional use grant as well as the land covenant that will be coming up later under Bob's report.
All right, any questions or concerns for Susan? If not, is there someone willing to make a motion with the amendment that Susan had offered?
In general government finance, made the recommendation, the council approved that, so with that, I'll make that recommendation with the caveat that Susan included,
Contingent upon the other approvals.
conditional use, yeah.
All right, is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
That is moved and seconded. Any questions or concerns on the motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the motion passes. The second agenda item under Area 7 is consideration and possible action on the approval of $8,765 of capital reserves and the selection of Cooney Architects to be able to move forward with the facilities assessment and needs analysis for the Municipal Service Center, 333 North Moore Road in 2024. The staff's recommending the approval of the use of the $8,700 of capital reserves and the selection of Cooney Architects to move forward with the facilities assessment and needs analysis for the Municipal Service Center at 333 North Moore Road. Mark.
Thank you. This item's been through both Public Works and General Government and Finance Committee. The council approval is related to the use of capital reserves. This was a unbudgeted item, and really just seeking your blessings and approval to use the capital reserves to complete this effort.
And if I'm not mistaken, Mark, the intention here is to prepare the city and put us into a really proactive situation to make decisions based upon what are our needs and then how to best use the property at Moore Road for the future?
Yes. Originally, we had budgeted $50,000 to actually jump into some design work to essentially create a larger multi-use storage facility at the garage. Looking at it again, we thought it was better to take a more holistic view of the garage and how it was going to serve our needs for, the next 30 to 50 years. And so we had budgeted $50,000 for this item, so we're not going to spend that. We're only asking to spend $8,765, but accounting-wise, right, it's a different way of financing it, and so that's why we're going through this exercise. But the bottom line is we'll be spending less money, but I think really enabling us to make wiser decisions in the future.
And my only question after reading it is, was there a conversation about looking at the potential, or is it possible to increase the scope of the project to review the use of the property on the east side of Moore Road for any potential development or use from, because we own from the corner all the way across along the creek there, if that's a possibility of having just some assessment done to see if there's any opportunity to build on that property.
We can include that. Yeah, I'll talk to Keeney.
Okay. It's Keening and not Kuhn? Doesn't matter.
They may pronounce it Cooney.
I had a Cooney student, so. All right. Any questions or concerns on this? Otherwise, I'd be looking for a motion.
I'll move to approve.
There's a motion and a second. Any questions or concerns on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. The next ordinance is ordinance 2024-9, repealing and establishing a one-way street designation, amending, repealing, and recreating parking regulations, and establishing official stop signs. This is a first read. The issue is, should the city adopt an ordinance, see ordinance 2024-9, to add stop signs on Scott Road, at West Northport Drive, at 2 locations, and at Pirate Way with West Jackson Street. Number 2, to revise the traffic and parking rules on North Holden between West Van Buren Street and West Jackson Street to reflect the name change to Pirate Way and current signage. And number 3, repeal the Sunday morning one-way ordinance for South Webster Street and West Michigan Street. There's no recommendation at this time as it's a first reading. Roger.
Well, that pretty much sums it up. When we did the changes over to West Main Street, we came across these other ordinance issues, and we said, let's kind of bundle them all up and come on time. So that's where they're all coming from.
Okay. The one question that I had about it was kind of confusing is there a stop sign being added at West Jackson Street, or is it just the ordinance is being updated? Because it reads that there's a stop sign at Scott Road in Northport and at Pirate Way with West Jackson Street.
There's currently a stop sign there, but that stop sign is not listed in our ordinance.
Oh, okay. So we can just blow through it. Is that what that means? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, good job. Yeah. Because the way that read, I was wondering if one was being put at the top of the high school hill. That's why I asked. So thank you for that clarification. Any other clarifications or comments? Yeah, Mike or Mr. Gasper?
Yes, forgive me if it's in the ordinance and I missed it, but for 400, section 400-6 for one-way streets, the current definition for West Jackson Street eastbound one-way says that it starts at the east curb of North Holden Street. I believe they'll need to be updated to Pirate Way as well.
I think you caught me. I missed one. Yes.
Thank you.
Mike just got 2 points for that one.
We'll add that for the second reading.
Yeah, so that'll be added for the second reading. Thank you, thank you. Any other comments or concerns about this? Just thank you, Roger and the traffic safety team for going through all of that and finding those pieces and of course aligning our ordinances with our current practices. Okay, with that, that brings us to agenda item 8A, which is a public hearing to consider a request by Milwaukee Mustache Properties LLC to rezone land located at 551 North Wisconsin Street from RM1 single and 2 family residence and CCM Central Residential City Mixed with OOS Office and Special Service Overlay to CCM Central City Mixed with OOS Office and Special Service Overlay. I'm going to call this hearing to order. And are there any speakers in favor? Are there any speakers in favor? Any speakers in favor? Any speakers against? Any speakers against? You can speak again if you'd like during the hearing. This time you need a PowerPoint and you have 30 minutes. You have 3 minutes, and then, so thank you.
Again, what I said before, that side is all residential. It's very quiet. I'm concerned about opening that all up to being business and bringing that right into our front yards. We like to have our windows open. We like to be able to, our living rooms are there. We like to watch TV. We don't want to have everything closed off. That's going to be very imposing to the people around it. And my concern is too, is if you rezone all of this and their business fails, what happens when they try to sell that to the next people? Is there any chance that they can always go back to being residential again? Or is it going to be completely, business-wise? And so those are my other concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, if you wouldn't mind after the meeting tonight of just making contact with her and kind of walking through that concern, because the zoning piece is always amendable. Okay. Any other speakers? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close this hearing. That moves us into ordinance 2024-8, an ordinance rezoning land within the city of Port Washington and amending the official zoning map. Consideration and possible action to rezone a split zone property at 551 North Wisconsin Street from RM1 single and 2 family residence in CCM, Central City Mixed with OOS, Office and Special Service Overlay to CCM, Central City Mixed with OOS, Office and Special Service Overlay for Milwaukee Mustache Properties LLC. This is the second reading. The issue is, should the Common Council rezone the property at 551 North Wisconsin Street? The staff recommends the Common Council approve the ordinance. Mr. Harris.
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, a quick background on the zoning for this particular property. This is almost more of a corrective action rather than a full rezoning. And so, the property, 551 North Wisconsin, it's a single parcel, but it does have, for whatever reason, 2 different base zoning designations, the CCM and the residential. However, as you all know, one parcel needs to contain one individual base zoning. And so to remedy the situation, the applicant at at the suggestion of the city, was the one that is asking to rezone the entirety of the property to the CCM with that office special retail overlay designation. And more to fact, it's actually the correct zoning. This goes back to a 1994 ordinance when the subject property was rezoned from B1 to that 2 CCM OOS designation. Why that received the split designation, I can't tell. There's no evidence of it. The only evidence that we have is that ordinance from 1994 that rezoned the entirety of this parcel to that CCM with that overlay allowing a little more variety of commercial uses. And it's just that ordinance does not have the legal description, nor did it have a map, but it points to that property, the former Sundance at that location, to go from B1 to the current CCM. Now, most of the property is zoned at CCM, and so including the building in which the bar is located, the actual zoning difference between what is now states as RM1 and CCM, it kind of runs, there's no defined border because it's a split zoning, and it runs through the middle of the garage. And so the rezoning does not affect any use. The use is already zoned correctly as a mixed commercial with residential use. So that's what I meant by having this as more of a corrective action. And so moving on with that, if you were going to rezoning criteria that the council is suggested to consider and use to make their decision, is the proposed rezoning consistent or generally consistent with the future land use plan and the land use map? In this case, it is. Does the proposed zoning, which is the CCM with that overlay, meet the intent of the zoning district? It does. And in this case, does the proposed amendment correct an error made in the original ordinance or the mapping? In this case, it does. Based on that informs my recommendation to approve and also matches the Plan Commission recommendation to approve as well. So just to reiterate, the property should have had the entirety CCM with that overlay going back to the 94 ordinance. And before that, it was a business zoning ordinance. So again, it does not affect the proposed use that's already zoned appropriately.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the background and the update on that. Any questions or concerns? It was recommended from Planning Commission. Is anyone willing to make a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or concerns on the motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that moves us on to number 4, consideration and possible action for a conditional use grant. Public hearing to consider a request by Milwaukee Mustache Properties LLC for conditional use grant to allow for a restaurant and bar with outdoor dining at 551 North Wisconsin Street. I'm going to call this hearing to order. And if there are any comments in favor, are there any comments in favor? Go ahead.
Hi, I'm James McMahon. I'm the owner of the Milwaukee Mustache Properties. And I just wanted to talk about the outdoor piece of potentially at Lucky Devils. And obviously, I met our neighbor, and I do appreciate her concerns because it's part of my neighborhood too. So although I might not agree with exactly what she's saying, our intent is to make sure that when we're working with patrons, when we're working with staff, that they do understand that we have residents in this area, so we need to respect that. And that's one of the things that we will definitely work on and do. I can't guarantee that every single person coming through will adhere to that, but that's part of our responsibility as a business owner to adjust and work with our staff to take care of that. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Are there any other speakers for? Any other speakers against? Any other speakers against? All right. No, go ahead. How you raised your hand. It's okay.
Mean to be the pain in the butt, but if I don't speak now, when do I have a chance? They are very nice people, and I respect that they came around to talk to us and invite them to learn more about invite us all to learn more about what they were planning on doing. We made our concerns about the noise, and they said they're living there, they're going to be, conscious about the noise, that they don't like that too. And then a couple weeks later, we get the notice that they want to move, not just have the bar inside, but they want to move it to outdoor dining. And then we didn't even, when Sundance tried to do, that cabaret license, the neighborhood was notified about that. We didn't get notified this time. I just happened to stumble across it when I was looking through the agenda notes. And again, I'm just concerned how often that music is going to be outdoors, how long it's going to be, how noisy it's going to be, because again, it's right in our front yard and other people's. So my main concern is the noise and the safety. I know they don't have control over everybody, but even if we could just keep the noise down or contained inside the building, that might be a good compromise with the rest of the neighborhood, or just me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to, I'm going to close the hearing and take us to agenda item number 4, consideration and possible action for a conditional use grant and land covenant to allow for a proposed restaurant and bar with outdoor dining at the subject property. The staff recommendation is 11 bullets long. Bob, I'm just going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll read that at the very end when I do, after my summary here. Some background, as everyone in the room probably knows, this is the former Sundance, the reference to the bar and restaurant that operated out of the site since at least the 1970s, up to, I think, 2016. I think that's right. So in 1994, and I mentioned this on the previous item, the property was rezoned from B1 to its present zoning of Central City Mixed, and then it has that OSS overlay, which allows for a somewhat narrowed variety of commercial uses. And because of the use is as a restaurant, but a restaurant that serves alcohol, it is a conditional use. And the significance of a conditional use versus, say, a permitted use is that a conditional use will have the public hearing and the noticing that we did mail out within 200 feet of the property, and also the newspaper notifications, and then the statutory guidelines that we do have to follow with any conditional use. Speaking of the conditional use, so continuing in with the background, in 2012, Sundance received a conditional use grant to allow for the outside eating and drinking and limited outdoor music. Conditional uses run with the land, so that was in effect, carried over even with the Sundance closing. And just summing up, the applicant, he acquired the property and is just seeking now the conditional use and the relevant licensing approvals that we are now. I'll let him explain, give his background if it's asked, but in the application, he's the general manager, I think former owner of the Bay Restaurant in Whitefish Bay, and owner of Big Ed Smoke Pit barbecue restaurant in Belgium, and he will be residing on site on the second floor of the property. I touched on the zoning already, both here and in the previous agenda item, and then a quick summary of the use and operations. It will be a full-service restaurant with bar. Anticipated hours of operation: Monday will be closed, Tuesday and Wednesday, 11 a.m. to midnight, Thursday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 2, and then Sunday, 11 till 9. I think that's the initial hours stated until, should this be approved, if they need to modify their hours. Kitchen hours close at 8 p.m., and then the patio hours reflect that existing conditional use that was given in 2012, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., and that's unchanged. Couple other items as far as operations goes. There will be no outdoor live music planned. If that changes, at some point down the road in the future, we'll have to amend our conditional use and go through the same public hearing and notification process. Taking into effect the context of the neighborhood, it is right in the middle of a neighborhood. Trash and bottle dumps will occur only during daytime hours, not during the night. And then the main entrance will be on Wisconsin Street, and patrons will be directed to enter at the Wisconsin Street entrance. No exterior building changes are planned except for signage, and no major site changes are planned from what is there now. And then in my report, I do outline for the council measures to follow when considering and granting or denying a conditional use grant. This was changed by the state in 2017, and rather than just simply relying on speculation or even general guidelines like health, safety, and welfare, the conditional uses must have measurable and practical conditions attached to this. It's a conditional use. It's approval with these conditions. And so they must be practical and measurable. And if the applicant meets or agrees to meet all the requirements, the conditional use shall be granted. And so let me go back to the recommendations for the conditional use. The days and hours of operation are the same as what was stated just earlier, Monday through Sunday, 11, and at the latest point on the weekend hours, 2 a.m. Days and hours of outdoor beverage service is Monday through Sunday, 11 to 10 p.m., reflecting that outdoor dining conditional use grant, which is confined to that patio area that is on the side near the front of the property. Alcohol beverages are permitted in that dining area near the front on the side of the property and should reflect on the site plan that was attached. And then the duration of the conditional use grant. One condition will be that this item will be re-reviewed if it's passed in 12 months by the Plan Commission, so August of 25. If this is passed, we will re-review to see if there's any ongoing issues or problems, at which point the conditional use grant can be continued or revoked. Signage shall be posted on the premises, just saying that alcohol is confined to that outdoor dining area. And then no outdoor live music or amplified music beyond just personal smartphone or personal little speaker device. And then no nighttime trash or bottle dumping between the hours of 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. And the primary entrance and deliveries also shall be on North Wisconsin Street. So with those conditions in mind, the Plan Commission recommended to the council to approve that conditional use with those conditions that I just stated. And then with that, I know the applicant and the owner is here if you have any questions or comments as we move along here.
Just a reminder to council, this was reviewed pretty extensively by the Planning Commission, and we really were pleased with Bob's recommendations and how respectful they were to the neighborhood and a lot of the concerns that were brought up tonight. Again, the no music on the patio, no live concerts, bottled trash dumping, kind of observing the fact that the neighborhood evolved from a bar to residential and now back to a restaurant. So Bob, I wanted to thank you for that because I thought that was well done, and I know you worked that out with the property owner, so I appreciate that. Mr. Planer?
Bob, can you further enumerate what carries with the conditional use now from Sundance previously from 2012? Like that, to me, it seems like there's a lot of the same things. Yeah.
Sure. The 2012 grant was just for the outdoor dining. At the time, it was a longstanding restaurant and bar, and then it went out of, it left, it was an empty property, and so is now so essentially that OOS with that zoning overlay, what it is, an restaurant serving alcohol or a restaurant with a bar is a conditional use, not just the outdoor dining portion, which is standard in all of our commercial districts. But now that essentially was a grandfathered use, and then it needed any new business needed to come back and have a conditional use, not only for the outdoor dining, but for the restaurant and the alcohol serving as well. That's the key difference.
Any other questions, Mr. Gasper?
Not a question, more a comment. For the neighbors here, I think the times that it closes by 10 and that there's no outdoor amplified music allowed should go a lot of the way towards your concerns. If you do run into problems, I would encourage you first to either talk with the owner or his manager first, and if it continues to be a problem, please bring it to the city, because this does have a 12-month review period. So if there are ongoing problems, that is the window to look into it and potentially alter this conditional use. So, I hope they're a good neighbor for you. I hope this addresses most of your concerns, but if there are problems, you have 12 months for this to get worked out yet.
Thank you, Alderman Gasper. Mr. Newmeyer?
This is my district. I received your email. One of the things I insisted with Mr. McGann, that be no outdoor music. He's making special means with the construction to silence things. And he's not intending to use the back parking lot for, I think there's a misunderstanding that that was going to become a dining area. So I think there was just a miscommunication there. But I understand your concerns with noise. I live right on Milwaukee, just north of Dodge. And I do hear the patio occasionally when usually their motorcycle groups come and visit. So, but as Alderman Gasper said, contact me directly, but contact Mr. Mann. He's very easy to work with. He's been very cooperative compared to other people we've dealt with in business in the city. So I'm going to I walk at night, so I'll be paying attention to it. So please, if you think there's an issue, get a hold of me, as Alderman Gasper said, or please, Mr. Mann first. Thank you.
Mr. Tierney?
Yeah, couple of points. Bob, you mentioned that it comes back to the Plan Commission in a year.
It does, yes.
Would it go from council from there, or could the Plan Commission just okay it?
I think in the zoning code, it says that when it's up for the 12-month review, and I believe this is right, it goes to the Plan Commission.
And they can just finish with it, and it doesn't have to come back here after they're done.
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. Let me then, and also, I thought it said, and I looked at this earlier, that's it. Then it's a permanent thing after the 1 year?
If after the 12-month review there are no problems, it can be an indefinite conditional use grant.
It can be, but
It will be
But if there are some issues, could they say, well, we want these things cleaned up in the next 12 months and bring it back?
I believe so, yes.
Rather than just make it a thing. And just something that you would have to address, sir, is that I've heard some iPhone speakers when they are pumped into there that can really pump out music. My son has one, and I think so, I want to make sure that we're not talking about that kind of thing, because that's not like listening to your phone playing here. That's like you'd think there was a band behind you somewhere.
I think the Alderman is. All right, you're referring to Bluetooth speakers that are off of the phone? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But, just to, we need some of those things to watched, I guess.
You can do those silent raves where everybody wears headphones and. All right, are there any other questions or concerns? Otherwise, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the conditional use grant.
I'll move to approve.
Moved and second. Any questions or concerns on the conditional use grant? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, excellent. All right, that brings us to our last agenda item, which frankly should have been first, because Ian, then you could have left, or maybe you wanted to sit here so you could hang out with us longer. This is a consideration of possible action for a conditional use grant and land covenant to allow limited warehousing operations at 216 South Montgomery Street. The applicant is asking for, I don't know where I put this agenda item.
Limited warehousing.
Limited warehousing, yes, thank you. Bob only has 5 things to discuss on this agenda item, and the approval is subject to the conditional use grant and associated land covenant with the following conditions. I'm going to let Mr. Harris do that. This was reviewed by Planning Commission, and we did move to approve it to council. Mr. Harris.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quick background. So the applicant is Anaran Holdings LLC, also Anza International. They recently purchased the light industrial building, at the subject address. That was previously the warehousing and distribution facility for Port Publications, or the Ozaki Press. And the applicant intends to use the facility as a warehouse to store and distribute its products that it imports in from Luxembourg, and in this case, primarily beer, wine, and limited foodstuffs or food types. A 2006 conditional use was approved for Port Publications. That was a real specific use for printing and related activities. And so even though it will be a similar use, a less intense similar use, there was a need to revise or amend the zoning code to break away from that narrow definition of printing and related activities to what we have now is limited warehousing operations. In its May 24 meeting, the Common Council adopted that ordinance. And then, as mentioned by the mayor, this was recommended to the council for approval. Real quick summary on use and operations. It's warehousing and distribution of imported wine, beer, ciders, and prepackaged foodstuffs. There will not be employees on site. Employees on site will show up when there's shipping and receiving activities needed. Hours and operations will vary with delivery and shipping dates. Again, it goes back to no employees being on site. Site improvements will entail the zoning code upgrades of required paving of the access drive, and then removal and replanting of the shrubbery. Building improvements will consist of primarily just updating and repairs, garage door, new roof, basic repairs to security system, locks, doors, plumbing, et cetera. And the on-site parking meets the zoning requirements. This is also kind of a little island of light industrial in a residential neighborhood. However, in this case, it's kind of an outlier. It's the only building that fronts on this little stub of South Montgomery Street. The other residences face on the adjacent streets. They use Montgomery Street as essentially an alley to access their garages. So with that, the Plan Commission, the recommendations are to approve it with these conditions in mind. Landscaping shall be installed within 1 year of the date of this approval, if there is an approval. The unpaved access driveway shall be paved in conformity with the zoning code within 12 months after the date of this grant. The grant shall not take effect. No occupancy or permit shall be issued until there is a written easement granting access across the premises to the small warehouse building that is owned by Port Publications on Milwaukee Street. And then the hours of operations, again, shall be again, because there's no employees, 24 hours a day, Monday through Sunday, and then simply no idling of heavy trucks for shipping and delivering. And with that, staff recommends same, and the applicant is here if you have any questions or comments.
We have one comment by our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. With regard to condition 6C, the one about contingent on an access easement agreement being entered into, that has been done. I have reviewed that, and it's in proper form. It's been signed. I'm not sure if it was recorded or not, but it has been. Next step. So we'll insert the recording data in the 2 blanks shown on 6C, and that condition will be satisfied. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? Mr. Benning?
Yeah, Bob, I guess the recommendation number 5, no idling heavy trucks. I had to work with Clean Test because they had trucks that were idling sometimes overnight, waiting for the docks to open and be able to unload. So they were not only idling and spewing diesel fumes, but had their headlights on, shining in people's bedroom windows. So I guess I'd like to see that one a little bit broader, that no idling, at any time when they're when they're waiting or loading or unloading. And no headlights as well when they're stationary.
So, Mr. Benning, are you suggesting that number 6E just be changed to no idling of heavy trucks or semi-tractors shall be allowed, period, instead of during periods of delivery
Yeah.
or shipping?
Yeah, something to that extent. Okay.
So if you'd be willing to make a motion
I
with
will
that
make a
amendment?
motion with that amendment.
So the motion is to approve the conditional use grant with 6E now reading, no idling of heavy trucks or semi-tractors shall be allowed. Is there a second to that motion? Second. Motion seconded by Alderman Gasper. Any questions or concerns on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Excellent. All right, that brings us to no unfinished business, no new business. Are there any other public comments or appearances this evening? Mr. Becker? Somebody quick adjourn.
Washington, is it on? Okay. I guess I do, Mr. Google knows that I watch the YouTube for all the meetings, and I really appreciate them being broadcast. I like Plan Commission, I like PFC, the council meetings. Sorry, Rob, DPW is boring. The library is better than DPW. That's just, come on. Sure, John. So the only thing, when I watch some of the meetings, being a PFC member for 9 years and mayor for 3 years, I think I understand the optional powers of PFC, and I really don't believe that 9 of you up there do completely understand it. Wisconsin State Statute 62.13, Parent C has some information on it. Maybe the city attorney should do a tutorial for you guys. But you gotta stay in your own lane. The lanes were made purposely. And I don't think either one, PFC and council, stay in their lane. So that's really all I have to say. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. Any other comments or public appearances? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
There, you have to wait till the motion is completed there, Mr.
Go faster.
There are no questions or concerns on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Go Pirates.